Box art has always been an important part of a game's chances of being bought, at least before the internet was on everyone's phones, and Alter Echo does a great job of catching your eye. It has an ominous silhouette and a competent tagline to grab your attention. Alter time, alter space, alter echo. This got me looking at the box, and in the end made me buy it. But in the US, all you get is the main character climbing, and trying way too hard to look cool. So after buying it, I looked at the back of the box. You know, the place to sell the game after the front grabs your attention. And it says, instantly morph into 3 different forms. Sword form, gun form, and stealth form. And I hope the wonderful naming continues, and this game is all about making strange noises that last as long as possible. Then it tells me to use time dilation to stop time and queue up insane combos. Now, I'm not expecting something as cool as Bayonetta's time slowing system, but I'm definitely intrigued. And the final point on the back, intense action set in a unique universe. It confirms that this is a Devil May Cry-like hack and slash with stealth and a gun that actually works. Checking its booklet, I've come to the conclusion that I'd rather just play the game already than read 29 pages of information. So let's go! So I start up the game and it gives exposition on this thing called Plast, which is a good old laugh in the face of equivalent exchange and just lets you make stuff, like the spaceship Nevin, the protagonist, and his friends are flying in. Then it tells you that this guy called Pavo has made the best version of it called Echoplast, which sounds great, but he sent this message 3 days after making it.
For humanity, I reserve my disgust, and so I have become discarnate, separated from the flesh without human body, subsumed by new flesh as its voice and shepherd.
And Nevin only has
That's really nuts.
to say. You know, nothing like, oh god, if Echoplast is really that good and he has new humanity, is he intending to destroy all life in the universe? What does he even mean by separated from the flesh? But before anyone can ask any of that, Pavo interrupts by destroying the ship and we get introduced to our side villain.
I just love killing things.
And I just love that you love it.
Which, I mean, you can understand their motivation. It's really simple. But this is also really dumb. I love it. In the chaos, Nevin gets flung out of the ship to plummet to his unfortunate demise. Oh well, game over, ew. Look at that loading screen, the way it pulses and warps. It just looks gross. Okay, fine. Nevin didn't die, he's
Alive.
and here with a new suit and a voice talking to him, and the voice says,
I will teach you how to use them.
so it's tutorial time! Yay! Well, the tutorial isn't too bad. It's basically a controlled environment where they introduce you to a mechanic one at a time and then make rooms where they're all together for you to get through. But the best revelations from this section of the game is
Father has set up force fields across many important paths, blocking them off.
Everyone needs a hobby, I guess.
Nevin is a sass boy and will hopefully make the game tolerable no matter what, and
Look, I'm not going any farther until you tell me who you are.
I am the Echoplast now. I am all around you. I am the walls of this room, the ground beneath your feet. I am the suit you wear that I made for you from my flesh.
That's impossible. Plast doesn't talk.
When Father created Echoplast, he amplified its biocircuitry so much that it became something entirely new.
so Echoplast is a living thing used to make clothes, and the strongest form of the stuff can talk. Oh my gosh, I'm playing Kill la Kill. Sweet! How long until I...
Oh, hold it! Wait! Whoa!
Then we get gun form, and we're allowed to play around with it. Admittedly, the difference between being Nevin and gun form is pretty cool. Gun form is large and bulky, so you can't jump or get through smaller tunnels, and your reduced mobility gives you a really good reason to start guarding. It's a nice change of pace, honestly.
A stealth form. Ooh, hit me. Here comes the stealth form. Here it comes.
After that, we get on all fours for the dumb-looking stealth form. Stealth forms unfortunately feels kind of like a new moveset for sword form when it comes down to it. Your basic jump is almost the same, and you swap attack power to increase your mobility, but not in a cool way like faster running or higher jumps. No, just pouncing on things and climbing on walls. I'm sure you could have given regular Nevin some acrobatics and the ability to go invisible, and it would have been close to the same. But oh well, having a form for all that weird stuff is fine, even if it feels a bit clunky. And with that, I think I've spoken about the main mechanics of the game, the ones that I'll be using to cut through hordes of enemies and platform about. Time for some side mechanics, like turret sections. Yeah, you can stand in certain places and go to first person and shoot things, without being able to move. I mean, it's not like you can dodge in gun form anyway, but it still feels really restrictive in comparison to everything else. I've also always been rubbish at them, so I might be a little biased in this case. There's also what I can only refer to as time dilation, a reaction puzzle microgame used to change the environment so you can progress. It's also the time stop mechanic the back of the box talked about, and it's a heart attack waiting to happen. You have to press the direction you want the glowy orange orb to go as soon as it lines up. Once you've started, you cannot miss a beat or you will fail. I hate this, it stresses me out, but I guess I'm just gonna have to get used to it. With the tutorial done, it's story time. So not much happened in the initial session, but the story is proving more prominent than I would have guessed. So, Echo tells you about masternodes and how Parvo is trying to take control of Echo's mind by controlling all of them to do evil. Probably. I don't know, the plot twist could be that Echo is evil, but I'm not expecting that. So, I liberated a handful of masternodes and met up with Arana, one of your friends. And then we get split up by Kess and Garen, the people who
Love killing things.
which, as the first boss battle, is absolutely awful. It cycles through a few attacks, and the only time you can do damage is while they charge the laser. Initially, they use it fairly frequently, and their accuracy is pretty mediocre, so your damage output is okay. But, once you hit half health, it does literally every other attack in its arsenal before shooting the laser again, so your opportunities to actually harm them become few and far between. The battle isn't an interesting back and forth anymore, it's now a boring survival, which has no tension by the way, because one of the attacks in the cycle drops minions, you kill them, and get health. I hope the boss battles get better as I get further on in the game. My final concern at the end of the first play session is also that the enemy variety has been pretty lacking. We've had a small guy with a sword, him in a different colour, a small guy with a gun, him in a different colour, and a small guy with a different gun. I'm definitely hoping that the variety increases. Alright, so I've beaten the game. And what do I think? Well, if you want a quick summary and more of just my conclusion, there is a timestamp on the screen now so that you can skip any story or gameplay spoilers if you want to. Alright, I'm going to start talking about the gameplay. So, this game was surprisingly difficult if I'm going to be honest, but felt pretty fair throughout the game. It has a strong sense of, if you die, it's your fault. Except for a couple of moments. Unfortunately, I think some of the difficulty comes from how the game controls, or I guess the lack of it, realistically speaking. The game doesn't have a solid dodge command, so you just kind of have to awkwardly jump away from attacks, and often still get hit. And the combo potential in the game is fairly low. You have hit square a few times, hit triangle a few times, and one that you have to buy, hit square, triangle, square, triangle, square, triangle until it stops. Now what I just said was only for sword form, but the other two aren't much better. Gun form has shoot your gun and throw a grenade, and stealth form has slap them while you're on the enemy or slap them while you're off the enemy. And that's about it. Which brings me to the part of the game's design I'm most conflicted about. The enemy design. Some enemies are immune to certain forms, and others change what immunities they have throughout battle. This is a really good way of changing the pace of combat around keeping those enemies in mind, which is a cool idea, and it makes combat much more varied as you can't just stomp the game in one form. But the lack of options in each form restricts this fairly interesting design space from being as fun as it could be. Rather than restricting a large pool of options into a specific area, you take a small pool of options and say, do this. I think the best example of where this doesn't work is in the form of the Tunnelers. The only enemy I think is straight up unfair and incredibly annoying to fight. So this thing is only able to be harmed by your gun. Issue is, when they are next to you, they slash at you for a good amount of health. And gun form can't even jump, let alone run away. But when you put distance between you and it, thinking, you know what, I'll walk away, and then shoot at it because it's gun form, it does its namesake, and it smacks you for an absolutely ridiculous amount of damage. Now the gun form is big, as I said, so you can't dodge, so you think, I'll just guard it. Nope, they hit through your guard pretty well, and you still take a lot of damage. As soon as you see this thing go to tunnel into the ground, you have to switch forms and press X and hold the direction so you jump out the way. While as an idea for a monster you go 1v1 with, this seems fine, as it's all about quick reactions and tracking behaviour, but this thing is a regular enemy, so you fight it in multiples, and with other things trying to kill you. So all that happens is that you die when trying to take out the rest of the arena and it tunnels into you, or you get chipped by everything else into being in one hit death range from the tunneler itself. It's the kind of frustration that would have been avoided if the gun form had, I don't know, a knockback move where you smack them with your giant gun just to push them backwards. Apart from the tunnels, the game still does a pretty good job of keeping things interesting. While it would have benefited from extra combos and other things like that, it's not game-breaking and it's still enjoyable. On the other side, the platforming is fine. The gaps aren't insanely strict, and even if you do fall, it doesn't kill you because the platforming isn't really the main mechanic. Time dilation is used frequently enough that you curve up with the difficulty of it getting harder and harder, and getting the orange thing to where it needs to be is inherently satisfying. And lastly, the turret section is hardly used and has the worst, most annoying boss fight in the entire game. But I'll get to that when I talk about the story. So, here's the story spoiler warning. Time's on the screen again. If you want to go there, just go for it. So you do find out what Pavo is trying to do. It's between the point where you meet up with your friend Stone, you know, the other one in the ship, and gathering blueprints to make a ship to run away. He wants to...
The full significance of Father's advent is revealed to me.
What is it?
The seedlings are weapons of genocidal power. When their shaping is complete, they will launch like missiles into space. Thousands will strike each planet inhabited by humans, destroying all life there. Such is the erasure.
Why would he do this?
The advent. The seedlings will germinate and grow until Echoplast covers each planet. From this new flesh will grow life in Father's image, ruled by him as a god.
We have to stop him.
Yeah, complete universal genocide, so that he can forge every world in his image. Pretty crazy, right? Ah well, we make the ship and Pavo attacks us, in the best boss fight in the game, that you do 3 times with slight variations, and every time it's still fun. So he's lured to attack you by your position relative to him, but he's faster than you, so you have to draw out opportunities to strike him. I love it. Well, except for this incredibly difficult part. After you defeat his clone, I think, he says, whatever, I don't care, and sends 10 of them after you. Echo gets you out and sends you to fight Kess and Garen as they are near the core of the planet trying to destroy Echo's brain. So they're boss fights, obviously. Garen has a boring middle section, but is okay otherwise, just learn the attacks and dodge. Fine, but not that interesting once you get him down. Now, Kess is much more fun. She moves all over the battlefield, a completely different fight from Pavo, as Kess just kinda does what she wants and you have to react to her. Also, you can dodge her attacks by jumping off the edge. It works a treat and you take no damage. They must have been onto me though, because in the last area, whenever I reappeared into attacks. And this is where I question something though. When teleporting, you get all these yellow blobs on you, right? So when these guys are beaten, there is no corpse. They have their dying words, and then they get teleport blobs? I'm guessing it's to avoid having them die on screen proper because of age ratings, but I still think it's kind of odd. So with the other 2 out the way, it's time to get back to the spaceship to Stone. Oh hey, we met Arana on the way, who...
Oh, she's a nuisance.
Nothing.
Arana, no! No! Arana, no!
Oh gosh, did she just...
You kill that bastard, Nevin! Kill him!
What?
Or do you only wish to avenge your pretty friend's insignificant death? You did find her attractive, didn't you? You tried to make her so predictable.
What is happening? Yeah, this game goes from about 3 to 10 in this one moment. Arana gets killed. I mean, no corpse, you get the teleport blobs again. But Echo does say...
Nevin, I am sorry.
So that is a confirmed death. Stone swears, and Pavo shows how nuts he really is. And this is the moment for me that the game went from being alright and completely absorbed me into it. From this point on, almost everything that comes out of Pavo's mouth is amazing. He's so smug, self-confident, and literally only thinks of you, like, as a slight inconvenience. To the point where Parvo's like, you know what, Nevin? I'll name a snail after you on one of the planets I make. Because, you know what? You're the only person who's ever done anything to even slightly inconvenience me. Sorry about that. The second encounter with Parvo is actually pretty interesting. The simple way they change it up is that he has a bunch of clones, of which he can switch between the bodies of, so this is the only place I'd actually ever mentioned the lock-on command, because it's the only place I've found it useful. He also gains 2 extra attacks. One's this big ground pound I was terrible at dodging and pretty much always got hit by, and I think that was where most of my deaths came from. And the other one was this big, monstrous attack that if it hit you, it did loads of damage, but if he misses, you get a really good opportunity to hit him. Once you beat back his clones, it's vengeance time. Jump in your ship and head for where he is. You just need to take out the shields first. Which is actually a boss fight all on its own. Didn't expect that. And the best way to describe it is it's the spaceship fight, but actually done well. It barrages you, but you aren't limited to when you can attack it. Its sweet spot is just sitting out in the open pretty much all the time. It's actually quite fun. Nothing in comparison to Parvo, but fine. With the shields down, you can make your way into Parvo's...
I'm right at the base of Parvo's tower. Now, what would Freud have made of that thing?
tower, and charge your way through it to fight him. They introduce an interesting mechanic here where you have to jump on enemies and shoot them as bullets to destroy certain obstacles. It's a real nice bit of form synergy and something I wish they did more of, but at least we have this. After that we travel deep down into the world's core and find ourselves the room before Parvo's lair. And a giant... You know what? I don't even know what that is, but it's trying to kill me. You make use of the cool enemies ammo mechanic and boom! It's a ghost now! And in comes the hardest fight in the game. Why? Because it's a turret boss. You know, that mechanic I said you didn't use much and now it expects mastery and incredible precision from you when using it? Yeah. Isn't that such a great idea? Well, if you want to play this game, here's some basic advice for you. Your bullets take a really long time to get to where they're going. So if you shoot bullets in the direction of an attack that's going to get you and it doesn't explode yet, you should probably move on because chances are it's going to hit it when it gets there. Don't forget you have grenades. They almost one-shot the laser creators and are really useful against the blow-up bugs that come at your feet. Other than that, I must admit, even though this boss is incredibly frustrating, it is very satisfying to beat it because you know, at this point, all that's left is you versus Parvo. While it feels a little anticlimactic that most of the boss battle isn't an action-packed sword fight like the rest of the game, the fight is built up basically to be exactly what it is. What you have over Parvo is time dilation, and that is your main test here. You hold block and switch forms to block when he shoots at you, and when you see the symbol, you go into time dilation. Easily the hardest iteration of this you have ever done, your timing has to be on point or you are going to fail. But I'm doing it, here it comes, the last hit.
You won't defeat me so easily!
Well, that's never happened before, and this is an awesome twist. Parvo shows how much of a threat he really is by stopping time himself to fight you. A 1v1 sword fight like all the clones, but thanks to every other boss fight I've done like this and the incredibly helpful camera, in this battle you strike him down and, well, I'll just let you see how it ends. Lovely. After that, he somehow isn't just a pile of dice chunks on the floor, but gets the teleport death too. Okay, strange choice. I mean, we've heard swear words and stuff, right? Even been compared to Freud. I don't think they need to censor the dead body of the main villain, do they? With Parvo defeated, it must be close until we hit the credits. Echo and Nevin have a bit of a chit-chat and Nevin leaves the planet with Stone saying he'll be back to talk more. And that's the end of...
Orana, wake up. There is much for us to do.
Well, that explains the teleport deaths. That is honestly a super interesting and ominous way to end this, because you spent the entire game being like, yeah, Echo's a good guy, and we need to free him from Pavo because he's the bad guy. But now the Echoplast has its freedom. What does it want to do with it? I guess that's a question for the sequel. You know, the one that's not going to exist because THQ is dead. Which is a real shame, because Alter Echo is a perfectly fun 8 to 9 hour experience that has pretty engaging combat where they make use of the different forms in interesting ways. And it also has a story that pulled me in a lot more than I could have ever expected. Nevin's sass mixed with Pavo's complete and utter insanity makes for some amazing dialogue that keeps you invested, because I just wanted to see these people talk more. If you see it as cheap as I did, got it for 50 pence, I would recommend picking it up, no doubts. Thank you so very much for watching, and I hope you'll be back for my next upload. Hello? Is someone actually here? Oh, thank you so much for making it all the way through the pilot of Resolved Games. This is mainly a passion project and something I'm going to be doing as a hobby, but I will say when I get to episode 1, because this was the pilot, a proof of concept, I'll be having an actual intro rather than some text, and a background that's a bit more than just a gradient that I took from myself. And I learned a lot, honestly, from just doing this. I learnt a lot, and I've got a lot of changes to make to the format that you saw in this video, so look forward to it if you actually enjoyed this. Once again, thank you so very much for watching, and I'll leave you off with some sass from Nevin, because, honestly, it's the best part about this game.
I'm shocked to see you alive.
Yeah, don't you mean ecstatic?
Path ahead looks clear.
Spoke too soon, old man. Ah, so it's Kess. I should have known that you were behind this.
If you want to cross the bridge, you gotta pay the toll.
Let me guess, I'm in the exact change lane.
I'll settle for your head on a stick.
Wow, that is so sweet.
Think you're clever blasting my ship out of the air?
Yeah, felt pretty clever.